Hello and welcome to another episode of Rugby TTL podcast. We thought we'd get a special episode together and go through the autumn internationals from the bottom to the top, who worked well, who didn't, how many tears Keith probably cries during this one is up to him. Obviously how Ireland got on, as we know, and there's no Welsh fans, so they can't cry too much. Obviously this weekend probably going to get tonked as well by South Africa. Right, so we'll start from the top, gents. As we sort of touched on before this, there's probably no looking past probably the best team in the world at the minute. Obviously, the Springboks. Obviously, rundown of their current November tour so far. Obviously, we recorded this before the Wales game, so we've got a 61-7 victory over Japan. We then got followed up with a 32-17 victory over France in France. Then a 32-14 victory over Italy in Italy. And then obviously followed up at the victory over Ireland. 24-13.
You've got to take into consideration, I think, the South African, I saw someone put the other day, goes, the best team in the world is the South Africa. Number one team in the world is South Africa, and the number two team in the world is South Africa with 14 men. So they suffered some red cards, and, I think that the result over France is the big one, really. I think that's the big one that I think that they'll walk away with and feel really, really confident and happy about, is that, going to France is always difficult. So to get a convincing win, it is great. I don't think that I think that there is a big gap in there where South Africa are to everyone else, but I think the gap between everyone else is getting smaller and smaller, which then makes it easier for those teams to perform well against the likes of South Africa. So,
yeah, well, I'm sure that's going to follow on with what Polly said there. That France match really was a statement performance, and I think everyone knew how kind of good this South African team was. But when they went down to 14, I was there thinking, right, this is where France is going to really come alive. And for the way that the South African team pulled together with 14 men on the pitch and put that score on France, really kind of went, wow. And from what I'm hearing, because you would have seen, I was watching the match last weekend with a bunch of our South African mates, and from what they're saying is just from the ground up, the preparation that's going into the rugby grassroots over there, like the train of talent that is constantly coming through and being prepared from such an early age, being like, right, okay, you're only 13, you haven't, whoever hasn't hit puberty yet, we're not getting you on the weights, but we're going to get you doing jiu-jitsu and other sports to prep you. Like, it's just going to be continuous. It's going to be continuously coming from the South Africans with the talent. So it's like we say, it's everyone else is trying to follow suit and close the gap on everyone else, and they just seem to be pulling away.
Do you think that it's a Rassie, or is this actually just systemic change within Springbok rugby? Or if Rassie steps aside, is there a solution after this? Is that being built alongside this conveyor belt of mutant built on?
I definitely think so. Like Rassie is, well regarded as one of, if not the best manager in the world currently, and everyone goes, well, the thought of, doing one, line out in the middle of the pitch or calling for a scrum into 22 when the fullback catches the ball, like that is down to not only his tactics, but what is ingrained in the coaching staff and the players coming through. So I think, to answer the question there, like what's going to happen when like Rassie goes down the line, I think the conveyor belt of talent and the way that what we've seen with New Zealand rugby over the last 3 decades of where it's ingrained throughout the country, that is what I've been told from the South Africans is what is there and what is continuously going to be coming forward.
The thing is, though, if they got somebody that's got the bollocks like Rassie to make those decisions once he goes, does he step upstairs and then still protect? Because Rassie's got that aura around him to protect those sort of decisions. Like, you're going to have somebody with significant amount of bollocks to step in and make those calls, and because it's probably not just Rassie that sees these gaps in the rule book. He's just got the nuts to actually say, we're going to do it and see how it goes.
I don't think it's like, if you look at Rassie and you look at that South African team, they're brilliant because of the number of personnel they've got playing there. Is that down to Rassie that's put that game plan together? I mean, he's willing to try some random stuff because guess what? He's not under pressure like every other coach in world rugby that are trying to chase that top spot. Rassie's like, I've got 3 years or, I've got 2 years to play around and dick around with what I've got because I know I'm the best team in the world. And when I go to the World Cup, it doesn't matter which 23 I put in the match day squad, I'm still the best team in the world. So he's created that sort of opportunity to be able to do whatever he wants to a degree. But that's because, are South Africa are they? I guess the question is, do we see them being that far ahead as everyone else in the world? When, if you look at the ignore the Autumn Nations, because I think they proved that they were, they're far away from some of the other teams. And I don't think they're too far away from France. I think France is still in that period where they're trying to come to the fact that DuPont's coming back. And, I think they're just settling into where they were post-World Cup. So they'll come back stronger. And I think the Six Nations will be really interesting to see where that is. But, the South Africans do what they want. So therefore they can crack on with that. When it comes to their home nations, you look at their schoolboy rugby, and you look at their under-20s, and you look at that, and it's like, Rassie Erasmus hasn't done that. That has been created. He might have been mentioning it, but that's created over 10 years of everyone wants to be a Springbok. Everyone wants to be the best rugby player in the world. And they are in a lucky position in terms of that's their primary sport in the country. They're not fighting for anything else. That and cricket. Those guys they want to make it massive as rugby players, and that's their stepping stone to to world fame, really. So it's to a degree it's easy to sort of have that support.
And I think, as Rassie called out, though, they put in two players. I think he perfectly described them as, we've got two props at 146 kegs each. And they couldn't catch, they can't run, they can't pass, but they can fucking destroy a scrum. And that was that was the game plan that they played against Ireland. As you said, they went for physical. But I don't think that's the only skill set the South Africans have. When they can switch up with Sasha at 10, you can switch between him and Pollard. I think they've got a little bit more than just physicality, but their physicality is their superpower, but I think there is a little bit more in there. But what do you class as their weakness then? If that's their where can these teams beat them? That's what we got to figure out.
The last match of the group stage. That's just getting that in there.
What happened there? I can't remember.
Doesn't matter now.
I think the big game that everyone was talking about is the South Africa Ireland game. It was, I don't know, Keith, what's your takes on that game?
I'll leave the yellow cards and everything out of the discussion
which one? Keith?
Yeah, which one? Because I didn't respond to the text the other day, Carl, because I was in agreement. Like the yellow cards were justified, and we gotten away with one for the penalty try should have led to another yellow card at that stage. And I think it's just that we gotten one so close to it that it could have equated to another. But obviously I'm not going to say we're arguing over the ref just because of the tackle out on O'Brien on the wing. But I said prior to the match starting to the South Africans, I said, I think that if we I thought we'd lose by 2 try scores. And I said, if we can do that, I think we'd actually be kind of happy enough. And given the performance, going down to 12 men at one stage and to be so defensively sound. I actually have to say that I'm very, very pleased with the performance of the lads on the day, regardless of the result, because I kind of expected it to go that way. More so the fact that what's come out post-match and the consensus around the national team is it's a bit stagnant in ideology, and I've been thinking this for a good while, because when it comes to the 15, that there is such a contingent of Leinster players, which was so fresh to go over to the Spain versus Ireland match and see the combination of Munster and Ulster and Connacht, because we have the same like Leinster back row, and fucking Crowley and Dan Kelly and Tom Farrell are all more deserving based on their performances in the URC so far this season than what Farrell is throwing out. But Farrell is clearly going, right, Prendergast is going to be my 10, and he's like, right, you play, even though Crowley is in the form of his life and should be playing. And Farrell is like, right, Sam, you need to go in there and show everyone you deserve basically this opportunity. Now, he didn't do too much in the match on the weekend wrong, and he was highlighted for his performance when he came on versus Japan. But there's been a lot of talk about the same ran ideas throughout the team. Brian O'Driscoll was on a podcast talking about it. A couple of the other ex-players always seems to rear its head just coming up to the World Cup.
We obviously saw the Harry Burns show for Ireland Day firsthand, Keith, and as you were saying, what he's doing at home and the domestic side as well. And you think he was never going to get a call up against South Africa, obviously, but he's got to be in some sort of conversation. He was a game changer. Between him, he was the young lad, the lad that played 9 for him as well. He was just it was different as well. It was the same when I saw Casey come on. Casey controlled the game against Portugal when they won 106-7. He was different gravy. When he come on against South Africa on Saturday, he sort of went through another gear. There was another aspect, because Jamison Gibson Park turned into a turnstile on a number of occasions and just looked dog shit on that big stage, whereas Casey looked to come in and just looked comfortable.
Yeah, it boggles my mind, because there is such a influx of the Leinster ideology and team members in that starting team, when for what we saw over in the Ireland A, you have Robert Balakune, who absolutely blitzed in with a couple of tries, left the Spanish for dead with his pace. We were talking to the Connacht fans beforehand, and they were there saying Shane Bolton is the next superstar, and yet these players for Connacht and Ulster just can't seem to get the nod from Farrell, when it would bring such excitement to the starting 15 that just currently isn't there. It's too much rinse and repeat without actually putting into motion your own ability. And I think by not incorporating the rest of the provinces to the standard that we saw with the Ireland A, we're really not making use of the talent that's there.
We saw it firsthand with Shane Bolton as well when he played in Portugal. And then obviously there was the call up to the Lions, obviously during the summer, straight before the Portugal squad. Then loads of the Ireland lads that were on the Ireland A team got called off to the Lions, and it wasn't the players that potentially should have also been going as well. And you think, is there
I'll give you one perfect example of that, Carl. Post that match, he played in that match. Clarkson then got pulled up to the Lions team, and we were all in agreement he shouldn't have been there. But the reason that he was is because he already had that training of the system that Farrell was putting into place. So it's very much right, I've already taught you. I know you're going to be disciplined in carrying out the act, bar taking away from the talent and other players that are more deserving to be there?
I think we've probably come a lot further away from the old Irish way, though, because you guys have fucked yourself for so long by only committing to 110. Unless they get injured, they don't get fucking dropped. And you probably dragged on with Sexton for 5-6 years too long. Yeah. You've now actually got two 10s available, and another couple fighting to get in the actual conversation, whereas you haven't for a long time. And I honestly think, obviously Wales left the same situation for a couple of years too late. Ireland are going the same way again. I think that side is aging and they're not blooding the right amount of squad in. They won't end up like Wales, don't get me wrong, because fuck me, I don't think anyone's going to get that bad again.
It happens in any position where, based off the amount of caps and the amount of time and sweat and tears someone's put in for the national team, they probably get a couple extra caps more than what they should. But when it comes to the Irish, I definitely think there's probably a bit of cahoots between Farrell and with Leo Cullen with regards, right here, this is the way we're going to play. It's going to integrate the way the Leinster boys do it, and that's probably why they get the majority of the picks at the back.
Yeah, and obviously if they've got the majority of the availability, it's kind of a set that it will continue, mate. There's no different. There's other sides around the world that are exactly the same, and we've had, obviously England have had it for a long period where most of the players were Saracens players. I think it's probably time to move on to England. I think I'm probably, for one, like most English fans, didn't expect us to go 4 from 4. I probably didn't expect 2 from 4, but I honestly think we've had an exceptional autumn nations. I still think there's probably some more questions than there is answers. Similar to Ireland, like Shanier said from All Things Rugby, Ireland are only one good referee away from falling apart from discipline, and they got caught out that on against South Africa. And I honestly think, obviously, what happened with Tom Curry at the weekend and stuff like that, potentially some of the calls and some of the ways that we still defend, and there's some of the tacklers that we still put in place, like Elliot Daly. We didn't have the legs to continue that game against the Pumas. If that went on another 2 or 3 minutes, we'd have probably lost that game. I think some of the selections are, you make them for the game, you make them for the opposition. We were trying to implement a game plan that worked for the Springboks, but not for English players. They didn't play the blitz defence. They didn't know how to. We probably stuck it out for a lot longer than potentially we should have, and there was questions raised around that. But I think there was a. I think one of the questions is, who's our best 9?
So I think Alex Mitchell nudges it for me, but I think it's great to be in a position where, like, Ireland are in a position where we don't really know who our best 10 is, and I think if you ask the South African player, a fan, they're not entirely sure who their best players are. I think I'd much rather go into a game and knowing that we've got players competing for those positions, rather than going, well, I'm picking him because he's clearly head and shoulders above the rest, because the physicality of the game now, you've got to be prepared for an injury. And, Borthwick's pushed for the last 2 games, he went for a 6-2 split, which means that he has to be far more inventive on the bench, which is the reason why Marcus Smith's been getting a nod at 15. And if you notice, he didn't get on at the weekend.
He didn't come. No. It was good. It's really good to see Freddie Stewart back. I still think he's probably up there as probably the best fullback in the world at the minute. Under the high ball, you ain't anywhere near that. Apart from Santi Carreras, who's just a filth, but he can't. He's probably not the best 15, and he's not the best 10. He can flip between the two. But I think under the high ball, Freddie Stewart's probably the best out there.
He was awful on weekend. I was there watching. I didn't think he had a good game on. I think he needs to work on his open play rugby. For him to be in that question of the best 15 in the world, because I think Will Jordan might question that, and you know.
But Will Jordan under the high ball and that, he's a try. He's just literally in the right, and he predominantly plays more on the wing now. Jordan normally plays 14.
I don't know. I think it depends on, you know, what we're looking at for a 15 and how you want to play. And I think
we've looked a lot better with him at 15 than we've had for a long time.
But I think it's also against who you're playing against. You know, if you know the team are going to be smashing up the high ball, then you put him in there, don't you? And, you know, Steve Borthwick is not people's favourite coach. You know, people will say that you know, he's a bit dull, he's a bit boring, you know, all of those other stuff and that. You know, we watched it in the summer. Good tour of Argentina. Got some really good results with not the strongest side down in. You know, going to Argentina is not an easy place to play. Just go and ask the All Blacks, ask Australia. You know, it's not an easy place to go and get a result. So for England to get 2 wins over there and come away with, you know, positives from there, I think from there to where we are now is miles forward. And you're right, it's the strength and depth. And, you know, I think centre choices and centre pairings changed every single game. You know, Henry Slade's come back in, whether you like it, whether you're a fan of him or not. You know, everyone's got their own opinion, but we're only as good as the next game that we play. And come February, and, you know, we've got to play Scotland. You know, we've got to play Wales. We've got to play a Six Nations where I genuinely believe anything could happen. So I'm positive that England have had a good autumn. I just think, you know, it's good to keep asking those questions, and we'll see what happens come February. That's the interesting one, isn't it?
Well, obviously, you mentioned probably the best one to move on to next, then Scotland. So they obviously started the Autumn Nations with an 85-0 victory over basically a non-existent USA side. They were awful, the US, going in that game. Absolutely atrocious. Then obviously, we're 17-0 down against New Zealand, got back to 17-all, and then still managed to throw it with the amount of opportunities that they had. They could have potentially taken that scalp there.
I think they could have won that game. I watched that, and that second half, I think, you know, yes, New Zealand took their foot off the gas, but Scotland looked like a completely different team when they came out at half time. And it was like, you know, it only took like that one try, the disallowed try in the corner. If he gets that grounded, you know, and they go in winning and they take the lead, you know, it's a big shift of momentum, and that momentum. And I think that's one thing that, you know, I was going to say at the end, the big thing is in games now, it's about the momentum. We talked about it, you know, we mentioned in England and Argentina. That's exactly the same thing that happened in the Scotland-Argentina game as well.
24-33 that Argentina game ended after they 24-0 up at half-time or whatever it was.
Which just goes to show that Argentina are no mugs in any way, shape or form. So,
and then they ended with a 56-0 victory over Tonga. So four games, 2 big victories against lower tier 2 nations. And then obviously put a good effort up against the All Blacks, but then there's a lot of question marks around Gregor being part of the Red Bull setup. Has this affected it? You kind of expect them to still lose to New Zealand, even if you get close enough within touching distance. But to be wanting to be in that higher echelon conversation, like going back to our statement a little bit earlier about Ireland sort of being stagnant and stuff, I think Scotland have potentially hit that. And have they progressed? Keith, what's your opinion on that?
On Scotland? No, I haven't seen any progression now over the last number of seasons. There was a purple patch of 1 or 2 Six Nations when you're like, oh geez, you know, the Scottish team are playing really good ball, you know, picking up results, you know, putting it up against the better teams, but they just seem to gone backwards over the last little while, and I think the mentality really did show in that Argentina match, because it took us all by surprise to hear the final score after they had been up by 20 odd points by half time. So yeah, Scotland itself, I just don't see any progression.
I think Scotland, I agree. And that's why people say, are England so much better? I just don't think everyone else is. England have been improving, over the last year, 2 years, and everyone else has kind of just gone that bit stagnant. And I think Scotland just haven't improved, I don't know how they can improve. Where's their wealth of players coming from, They've got some talent, but
we obviously had Scott Steele on before, and he said he obviously got called up to the Scotland squad, played scrum half, played with Finn Russell, and he said one day Finn was just sat in the kitchen, ready waiting for scran and that. And he was just sat there watching a tablet laptop thing, watching a game back and forth of France, the game there coming up. And he turned, so Scott went and sat. He goes, I just want to understand what you're looking at. And then he goes, you watch, I think it was Ramos or Bielbarri or one of the players on. He said every time this defender steps forward, that winger steps back. He said so. There's an X amount of space in between these two. And he said he watched it every game for however many games, and he said it happens every single time. So he says, as soon as I see this happen, I'm going to drop it bang on that spot. And during the game, he did it, and they obviously scored a try. And he's that ruthless in even outside of the pitch, watching everything that goes on. He 100% knew exactly where that ball was going to be and where it wanted to be, and he did it. How good would that be to see Finn Russell as your manager? That would be absolutely batshit mental.
Well, he did get his doctorate, so look, anything's possible.
Exactly, yeah, he's a doctorate now, so he's literally just like, he is a maverick, as we know. Like, he can play to it, but he will throw a 30-metre out the back door pass without looking, just because he's seen somebody walk past with a pint. Like, he's that, he literally on the turn of nothing, but he could create something out of nothing. And that's the sort of play. But are the other Scotland players at his level? Are they on the same page as him?
I don't know. Who's the young Scottish hooker that's played in the Sun? Who played this? Oh, I forgot his name. Ashman. I was chatting to Tim about it the other day, Carl, and all things hookery, I'll take off Tim. And he says he's absolutely brilliant. He says he possibly will be the next Lions hooker. So I think they've got players coming through. I just think it's do they hold on to players too long before they blood them? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think as a Scottish rugby fan, I think you'd be disappointed from the autumn.
I think we've kind of sort of battered along a little bit, but I think the point is that Scotland haven't moved forward. And I don't think it was a good Autumn Nations. I don't think it was something to get them excited going into the Six Nations either.
Hello. So, little outro. Obviously, this one's had to be thrown together. We finished this episode in a bit of a hurry. A few technical issues, but as you saw, there's plenty of unfinished business. And episode 2 of this one, part 2, will be out. We're going to hopefully get this recorded over the weekend or the start of next week. So we'll be back into the mix. And I hope you enjoyed the ins and outs there. Obviously, Keith brings the next exceptional added value. Obviously, Polly's got another view again, which is great for all of it. And obviously, my ramblings do make some sort of sense, I hope. But make sure you keep following. Make sure you keep subscribing, liking, sharing. Tell everyone what we're about, because Rugby TTL is growing and we've got some amazing guests lined up, especially coming over this Christmas period and into the next year. We want to keep sharing that message, and we love the game as much as you guys. We love the interaction that you guys give us, and just keep dropping us a message, because it's brilliant to hear that people are actually on the other end of it. So I hope you enjoy everything we're doing, as always, and we will catch you on the next one. Part 2 is going to be a banger. We get to pull Wales apart.